Right, we're going to end this hour with a bit of breaking news. Bukayo Saka, we understand, has agreed in principle a new 5-year contract with Arsenal. Saka's current deal currently up in 2027. It means that this new improved contract will run until 2031 now for the player. We know, of course, a number of top Premier League and European clubs were keeping an eye on his situation, but it was always the players and clubs' will to remain. So, yep, Saka agreed in principle a new 5-year contract.
Ian Wright questioned Mikel Arteta's summer signing Viktor Gyökeres after Arsenal were held to a goalless draw by Liverpool. The Gunners were hoping to take full advantage of Manchester City's latest slip-up in the title race by beating Liverpool and going 8 points clear at the top of the Premier League. But Arteta's side were nowhere near their best at the Emirates Stadium on Thursday night and had to settle for a 0-0 draw. Arne Slot conceded before the game that Liverpool were already out of the title race, but his defending champions were narrowly the better team in North London. Arsenal struggled to create clear-cut chances, with $64 million summer signing Gyökeres having just 8 touches before being subbed off with half an hour remaining. Gyökeres was expected to be a prolific striker for Arsenal after scoring almost a goal a game for his former club, Portuguese champions Sporting. But the 27-year-old has now scored just 5 goals in 18 Premier League games and is without a goal from open play since November 1st. Wright was frustrated by Gyökeres' performance against Liverpool and said he should have been on hand to convert some chances given the kind of money Arsenal paid for him. The Gunners legend also said he thought Arteta should have brought Gyökeres off sooner, as he praised the pace and buzz Gabriel Jesus created following his introduction from the bench. You have to credit Liverpool for their second-half performance, but in the first half, Arsenal created enough chances and got the ball in the box enough that meant you have to take an opportunity, Wright said on Premier League Productions. You have to take those opportunities because you might not get too many more. Liverpool had the better chances in the second half, but it's another one for Arsenal to learn from. I'm happy they got a point rather than nothing. It was a tough game, and it means they're still in pole position in the title race. But you have to be more ruthless in the first half with the chances you're creating. If they score those chances, there's no nerves in the second half. You have to take those chances and finish teams off. The closing down wasn't there in the second half. As soon as Liverpool got the ball, we dropped off. That wasn't working very well. The subs could have been made a bit earlier to get a bit more energy. I would have liked to have seen Jesus earlier and Madueke a bit earlier as well to get a bit more pace, a bit more buzz into the game. But the attitude you've got to have is to win games, and then if you don't, you take the point. But we can't be safe, and we felt a bit safe and nervous there. Fellow former England striker Michael Owen then pointed out that title favorites Arsenal are not as expansive as the Manchester City and Liverpool teams that have won the Premier League in recent years. It was at that point that Wright addressed Gyökeres' form, saying, "What I would say though, Mike, with those teams you mentioned, they had a striker that can... In those moments, when the game's tight, you're not going to get many chances. That's what we thought we bought, and that's what you need. Look at the balls that went across goal. When you're paying that kind of money, they have to be there. That's what makes the difference in games like this, because we created enough in the first half to get something, but we didn't have someone to take the chance. Then in the second half, you get more and more nervous because of everything Arsenal are trying to do. You could feel them getting more nervous and deeper, and you can't do that. We need to finish games off a bit more comfortably than we are at the minute." While Arsenal failed to beat Liverpool for the second time this season, they still extended their lead at the top of the table to 6 points. The Gunners, who have not won the Premier League since 2004, put their title charge on hold this weekend when they face Portsmouth in the FA Cup. Arsenal's future captain is becoming a bigger liability than Gyökeres. On Wednesday evening, Arsenal fans rejoiced as they saw their title rivals slip up. Aston Villa and Manchester City had both drawn, meaning that if the Gunners defeated Liverpool at the Emirates on Thursday night, they would go 8 points clear at the top of the Premier League. Alas, that did not happen. There was huge expectancy among Arsenal fans as an injury-depleted Liverpool side headed to North London, but the league leaders arguably put in the worst display of the season. Between the 44th minute and injury time, Arsenal's men failed to have a single shot. The visitors controlled much of the possession in the second period, but never looked like scoring. All right, we're not selling things particularly well, but there were a number of talking points, not least another anonymous display from a certain Viktor Gyökeres. Viktor Gyökeres. Viktor Gyökeres' struggles versus Liverpool. A year ago, Arsenal really needed to sign a striker. Gabriel Jesus had suffered an ACL injury, Kai Havertz was far from prolific, and Eddie Nketiah had left for Crystal Palace in the summer. Did they sign one? Against their better judgment, no. Just days after the window closed, Havertz suffered a hamstring injury which ensured he missed much of the second half of the season. Marino filled in tremendously well as a makeshift striker, but once the summer came around, Arsenal's side couldn't afford to find themselves in the same situation. They signed a striker, securing the services of Viktor Gyökeres. Before Andrea Berta arrived, it looked like the recruitment team had fancied Benjamin Sesko, who later moved from RB Leipzig to Manchester United, but it was Berta who championed a move for Gyökeres. Arsenal's new supporting director has done a lot right since being given the post in the early stages of 2025, but the acquisition of the Swedish center-forward has to go down as a colossal blunder. Indeed, while the Swede has certainly not had things his own way, Arsenal could create more for him. His failings are only being exacerbated the longer his goal drought goes on. The big-money summer arrival did find the net from the penalty spot against Everton before Christmas, but he has not scored a non-penalty goal since the club's win over Burnley back in November. Gyökeres does not look like he suits Arsenal play style, but to cut him some slack, Arsenal's most creative players have not been forthcoming with too many chances for him. It says it all that in 7 of his Premier League outings, he's failed to have a single shot. That was the same story on Thursday evening against Liverpool. Gary Neville described his performance as a really poor one, suggesting it was another ineffective night for the former Coventry C striker. You can't disagree with that statement. While the center forward is a nuisance and occupies defenders, he's been brought in to score goals, and he is simply not doing that. Another game passed him by with minimal impact. That said, he's not the only problem for Arsenal at the moment. Arsenal have a bigger problem than Gyökeres. The Swede is becoming a big issue for Arteta, and although the Spaniard has suggested he is seeing improvement, it's surely time for a spell on the sidelines now. 2 of Arsenal's best performances this term, the wins over Bayern Munich and Spurs, came with Marino leading the line, while Jesus and Havertz are back from injury, albeit to degrees of fitness. At the back, however, there is a problem for Arteta and his coaching staff. Much has been made of the center-back injury crisis this term. The Gunners have even been linked with a move for Crystal Palace skipper Mark Gahey this week. Yet that pesky left-back role is becoming an issue again, just as it was when Oleksandr Zinchenko couldn't nail down a regular starting berth in that role. Riccardo Calafari began the season at left-back, and since his injury, it's Piero Hincapié, not Miles Lewis-Skelly, who's been preferred in the left-back role. Lewis-Skelly's cameo against Liverpool showed precisely why he's been bumped down the pecking order. The 2024-25 campaign was a breakthrough one for the teenager, but surely all hopes of him making England's World Cup squad this summer are being extinguished. He's barely kicked a ball this term, featuring for just 312 minutes in the league. Why? Well, it looks like he's suffering from a lack of confidence and rustiness. That's hardly surprising given his limited minutes. Even so, you'd expect better for one of the best young players in the country. He's gone from being nominated for the PFA Young Player of the Year, someone who scored against Manchester City, to a player who doesn't look like he's capable of starting for Arsenal in a very short period of time. Brought on to replace an injured Hincapié against Liverpool, the England international had a disastrous cameo, notably ran ragged by the sprightly Jeremy Frimpong down Liverpool's left flank. On more than one occasion, the Dutchman got the better of Lewis-Skelly, and Arsenal were fortunate not to concede following the fullback's haphazard defending. One moment of madness summed up his season. Trying to progress the ball into the center of the pitch from the left, he gifted possession straight back to Liverpool. Arteta will have rightfully been perplexed with what he was seeing from someone who's usually so confident and fearless. Lewis-Skelly has lost his mojo and simply cannot be trusted to start games for Arsenal. Certainly not at left back anyway. Gyökeres may well be struggling to find goals, but he's helping the team's overall dynamic.
He can pin several defenders at once, see Declan Rice's first goal against Bournemouth, thus creating space for members of Arsenal's forward line to thrive. As for the Highlander, it's been a tale of woe this season. He's regressed and looks like a bigger problem than the club's big-name striker. He does, however, have time on his side. Gyökeres arguably does not. The future remains bright for Lewis Skelly. After all, he has been described as future captain of the club by some insiders. It's time to see some improvement before Arteta really does lose his faith in the youngster.